Hello and welcome to the third part of this tutorial series on register and login. In the previous part we just created some backend functions to do what we need them to do, and in this part we are going to approach the init file. So without any further ado, let us get started. Because we're doing a login and register system, we rely heavily on sessions. A session is what dictates whether you are actually logged in or not. In doing so, since we're handling sessions, we need to let PHP know that using session start as the first line in our init.inc.php file. And that just handles the sessions, whereas it's required whenever you're using sessions as the first line of code, or before any output, one of the two. Whatever. Either way, it's the first line of our code, and it works, so no complaints. The next thing that we're going to do is include the backend files, the ones that we just put our functions in. The way we're going to do this is with our include function, and as you may remember, maybe not, let's see, let's go back there. They're in this inc folder. We're working in the core folder and they are in the inc folder. So as you would think, we might go inc and then the file name, register.inc.php. Now this may work assuming that all of your directory setup is perfect and we're all good, but it can also cause errors. So in order to avoid these errors, instead of using a relative include directory, we are going to use exact one. So one for the full directory. The way that we're going to do this is through the use of a path variable, and the path variable is going to equal to the dir name, the dir name of the file constant, which is 2 underscores, then file in capital letters, and then another 2 underscores. So just make sure you have the 2 underscores on either side, not 1. 1 would look like that, and it doesn't go blue. 2, pretty blueness. Now basically what that has is the entire path of the directory up into our current script. I'll echo it out so that you can see what I mean. We'll go to this init page, and you can see that we have my C, and then my WAMP, and then my www, and then my tutorials, and then my login, and then my core, which is the full path up until here. So from here, from that full path, it will always be this inc folder. So all we're going to do is have the path variable and then /inc and then the file name. So path /inc register.inc.php, and we're going to do the same thing for the login.inc. So this is the standard way of including files with the library file, and so you may see it other places. I'm not claiming it to be my method, but yeah, that's a standard way to avoid any possible mishaps with your directory and such. So after those are included and we have started our session, the next thing to do is deal with our MySQL connection. So the first things first is we have to use our MySQL_connect function. This takes 3 parameters. All of them are strings. The first parameter is your server name. Mine is currently localhost. Second one is your password. Mine is currently root. And the second one is your username. Third one is your password. I don't currently have a password. These are the default settings with packaged phpMyAdmin and Apache. Like if you're using XAMPP or WAMP or XAMPP or WAMP or whatever you want to call them, these would be your default settings. Otherwise, you have changed them and they will be different than mine. So after we've connected, we want to select our database. Our database will be selected using the MySQL select DB function. So MySQL select _DB, and if you remember, and I can go back to show you to jog your memory, our database is called login. So MySQL select DB, and we're selecting our login database. That's all our MySQL out of the way. So after that, what we are going to do is deal with the requirement of a login page, or requirement of being logged in for certain pages. What I mean by that is, if you're on this user.php page, you want to make sure that you are logged in. Whereas if you're on this login page over here, you don't need to be logged in to be there. So we're going to do that, but in order for us to make that check, we first need to know what our current page name is. And so this is a little bit of a complicated process. However, if you follow along step by step, you should be able to understand it. So first things first, we're going to define our page name variable, page name. And at first that's going to equal to a server variable called the script name. So we access that by $_server, capital letters, square brackets, then in square brackets we have single quotes, and again in all capital letters, script _name. Now, basically the script name is the path from the root directory. What I mean by that is if you had www.website.com/tutorials/login/users/ this is my page that I am using now.php, it would give you this piece right here, right there. And so that's what that variable is equal to. I'll echo it out in a real example so that you can see. So I'll echo page name and go back to this page and go into our init page, and you can see that we have this tutorials login core init, which comes from tutorials login core init. So I'll copy and paste this so I can use that as an example. Right there. Now that's a little bit helpful, but we really don't want this entire thing. We only want this portion right here at the end. So in order to do that, we first need to use the explode function. Now what the explode function does is it takes a character, for instance a / or a space or an A or this thing or underscore, whatever. In our case it will be a /, and it breaks up a string using that character as the one to decide where the space is. So for instance, if we're breaking it up on this / and this is our string, what we're going to be doing is every time that occurs, there's going to be a new element in the array. So that occurs the first thing, so we'll start off with our 0, and that occurs, so new element. Then we go 1, and it occurs right there, new element. We have 2, it occurs right there, break down, new element. And it occurs again right there, and we have our final new element, giving us 5 elements in this array. And so that's basically what explode is. I probably have explained it better in a different one of my tutorials. Maybe I even have a tutorial on explode. If not, and you want it because you don't understand it, just tell me that you want the tutorial. Just leave a message saying, Dylan, give us a tutorial on explode. I don't understand because you're stupid. And I'll be like, I am stupid. Here's your tutorial. And that'll help everyone out. So let me know. Anyways, that's what we're going to do, because it will break up this thing that we had, this string right here, from the script name, and it will break it up into an array of all these pieces. So let's do that right now. The explode function, once I delete that, we're going to use the explode function. It takes 2 parameters, the first one being the character you want to explode on. Ours is a /. Second one being what you are exploding. Ours is our script name. So I'll print _r this array now, and you can see that it gives you the array that I had just made. So the first key is blank, or the 0th key is blank, number 1 is tutorials, 2 is login, 3 is core, 4 is init.inc.php. Now obviously that's the one that we want to deal with, which is currently our 4th key, but it might not always be our 4th key. However, it will always be the last key in the array. Because you're never going to have, if that's your directory, you're never going to have then like core on top of that. That doesn't work. So luckily PHP has an easy way of doing this for us, using the end function. All the end function does is it takes the last element in an array, and it makes in our case it makes the variable, this variable, equal to the last element in this array. So that array currently is 5 elements. It will make it like this. If it was 4 elements, it would still be this last one. If it was 27.5 million, it would be this one. It will always be the very last one. So I'll echo out that page name again, and you can see that we're actually well on our way to having our page name, because that just gave us this init.inc.php. Now the last thing we want to do is remove this .php. We only want this portion of the string, so we only want this part, a smaller part of the string than what is actually than the full string itself. So the way we do this is using a function called substring, or subster. Basically what this function does is it returns a part of a string, taking 3 parameters. The first one being, here I'll take this in so I can use an example again. First one being the string. The second one being the starting position that you want to start taking your characters from. 0 being the first character. So if I take 0 right now, it will take from here, and that's where it will start. If I had said 1, it would take at the end. If I had said 2, it would take this I, 3 the T, 4 the period, etc. And the third parameter that it takes is the length of the string. So for instance, if I entered a 4, it would take from the 0th to the 4. So 0, 2, 3, 4. It would take that. However, again, you don't know how many characters your name is going to be. So the only thing that will ever be constant is how many characters on the end you want to remove. It will always be 4. Luckily, there's a way you can do this as well. If instead of a positive integer you set a negative integer, it removes that many from the end of the string. So it is the entire, or it's starting at 0, and it's the whole string minus 1. So it gives us this whole thing minus 1. If that's a minus 2, takes off or it's minus 2 on the end. So since .php is 4, we're going to have a negative 4, 4, and it will remove that piece. It's the entire string minus the last 4. And that is what we are going to need to do. So in order to do this, we're going to apply it to this. This is going to be our actual string. So let's get on that now. So we go substring, first parameter being the string, second parameter being the start location, which for us is a 0, and the last parameter is the length, negative 4 in our case. So now if I echo page name, you can see that we have this nice init.inc. Okay, so with our page name, we need to now have a list of pages that require authentication or require you to be logged in to check it against. So how we're going to do this is with an array. I actually have a quick tip tutorial on this where we check the array for multiple conditions. So using the inArray function, you can check that out if you'd like to. But yeah, so we're going to define an array. The array name is going to be required because we required authentication to be on there, and that's going to be equal to array. I have a tutorial on arrays if you don't understand this part. And we're going to have 2 files currently that you need to be logged in for. The first one being user, this user.php, because you don't want someone to see a user file when they're not a user. And the second one is a logout, as in order to be logged out you need to have first been logged in. Logically speaking, I think that's the only way to say it. I mean, it's to prevent errors on our case, but it only makes sense. You can't log out unless you're logged in. You can't die unless you're alive, so I guess that makes sense. Does that make sense? Or am I crazy? I'm probably crazy. Right now you guys are all telling me that I'm crazy. Dylan, you're crazy. Don't leave a comment saying you're crazy. Do not do that. Anyways, besides the point. So, with that array defined, we can now go on to checking to see if they're logged in, and if they are logged in, if they need to be logged in, and if they're not logged in, if they have to be, etc. So, we're going to do this again using sessions. That's how we're going to know whether we're logged in or not. So first things first, we're going to say if is set, and the is set, we're going to look for the session username. Now I know I haven't actually done the login, but when we do the login portion of things, we're going to set the username session, and that username session will dictate whether we're logged in or not. So if it's set, we are logged in. If it is not set, we are not necessarily logged in. However, so we'll open up this block. However, like I was saying, you also have to remember that we left this cookie portion so that we can remain logged in. So a session might not be set, but if we have cookies set, maybe the user is supposed to be logged in which case we need to log them or start their session again, because they obviously have ended their session but maybe not have ended their cookies. So next thing we're going to do is check to see if the cookies are set. So if is set, we put these in a bracket. This is set check because there are going to be two checks in this if block. So if is set $_cookie username and the cookie password, as that is how we're setting the cookies. That will make sense when we do the login for you. So if those are set and $ampersand, again a new set of brackets, valid information, the function we defined, cookie username and second parameter cookie password, as we store in the cookie the password and the username of the user. So if both of those are set, or if that's true and that is true, then we're going to open up this code block, and that means that they have been chosen to remember but their session has ended, which means we need to restart their session. So the way that we do that is by assigning the session variables, so $_assign session and the session username, and that has to equal to the cookie username. And from there we're going to redirect them, so we'll send a header, and the header we are sending is the location header. And we're going to redirect them to the user.php file. And then of course after you redirect, you always want to exit your script. So we use this exit because if the person's browser has moved on, we don't want them to not be moving on, so we'll tell them that they have to exit, and that's how we do that. So actually, I apologize, up here there's a typo. If is set session, we're supposed to check that against false, because that would mean that the session has not been started rather than the session has been started, because if the session has been started, there's no use for checking for these cookies. So if this is true, then we'll redirect them and they'll be logged in and nice. But if that's not true, we need to see if the user is supposed to be logged in, because if that's not true, so if there is no session set and there's no cookie set, that means that the user is for sure not logged in. So if their user is trying to access a page that they need to be logged in for, we need to make sure that they can't get to that page. So the way we're going to do that is using the inArray function. So if inArray, and we're going to take use of this page name and required array here. So if inArray page name required, just like that, which means that if the current page name is in this list of pages that require us to be logged in for, but we are not logged in, we're going to again redirect them away. So we're going to header them to the location, stupid keyboard, location of login.php, and we're going to exit the script. So up until this point, what this has done is if they're not logged in, then if their session's not set, it checks to see if the cookies are set. If the cookies are set, we log them back in. If the cookies are not set, which means that the person is not logged in, but they're trying to view one of these pages that they require to be logged in for, we bring them to the login page. So that's good up until here. Now the last thing that we want to do is we want to disallow someone who is logged in from being able to see the login page and try and log in again. So the way we're going to do this is using else after this, because if this is the else block on this code, so that if this set session equals false, so that would mean that the session is not set. So this else block means that it is set. We're going to try something else. So we're going to say else if in array page name required is equal to false, which means that the user is logged in, but the page they're trying to get to does not require them to be logged in. We don't want them to do that. So we're going to redirect them to the user page. So we're going to say header location user.php, and then we're going to no, we don't even need to exit the page because that's the last line of the code. So that is that. I hope that makes sense. Basically, I'll rerun through this once more. If the session is not set, but the cookies are, we reset the session and log them back in. If the session is not set and the cookies are not set, but they're trying to view a page that requires one of those two to be set, we bring them to the login page. If the session is set, but the people are trying to view a page that requires it not to be set, we header them back to a page that they can go to. Now, just a quick note before I end this part of the video. This check right here, else if in array required, is not necessary per se. For instance, I could go to this login page and just have a quick at the top if is set session username or whatever. So if that's set, and then I can say like echo you're already logged in, right? And that may be a better option for some of you, as you might have pages that you can view whether you are logged in or whether you are not logged in. My current setup, they are totally divided. If you're logged in, you can only view these pages. If you're logged out, you can only view these pages. None of them overlap. The other method that you can use is, instead of having a required array, you could have an array of all the pages that don't require you to do so. And then, so that would be, for instance, login and register. And then all you would have to do is change this to is equal to false. So if it is not in that list, which means that it requires you to be logged in, yeah, then do that, and otherwise do that. And I mean, there are a number of other fixes, but like I said, this is only a very basic framework for you to work out. If you have questions on how you can better approach this, leave me a comment below and I will answer them. But that's all for this part of the tutorial. Join me in the next part, and we will start coding out our register file. Thanks for watching.